Hello, good afternoon. It's the Everton Daily Live. It's Monday, the 16th of September. 9 months to the day, Jack, that Everton last won a Premier League away game. And we've won 5 games of football since then. So, good times, standards nice and high at our football club. Another hugely disappointing 90 minutes, or 97 minutes, whatever it was, of Aston Villa at the weekend. Did you have any doubt when Ollie Watkins scored that Aston Villa would win the game?
I had doubt that we'd win the game at 2-0, to be honest with you. I didn't feel confident at all, to be honest. And, you know, at times in the past, we might look at that mentality and go, oh, it's just, you know, it's because we're Everton, it's because, you know, we're doubters as a fan base. But no, we quite literally did see this in our last Premier League game against worse opposition.
Yeah.
So against Villa, with all the talent they've got, it was, you know, like, have you ever had situations of like anyone in your life and like you've had to say like, look, like never again, like this doesn't happen again, whether like it in work with anyone or anything or with a mate or something, and you've sat down and you've said, look, we'll be all right, but this doesn't happen again. And then it turns around and happens like the next week. That's exactly what we've just been through with Everton.
Yeah.
The other week, you know, I sat here and said, if Everton was your relationship, you'd get a divorce. I think we've moved into restraining order territory now, to be honest.
Fair enough.
I think cut them out of all the pictures and everything. Like,
then terrible.
Like, what Everton? No, I don't like football, mate. No.
I am moving into I've been involved in 3 games over this weekend. Watched 3 defeats. So I am moving into, I want to take up Crown Green bowling or something.
Yeah.
It's less stressful.
But you could go back into the water polo, couldn't you? Because, you know,
that was a very short-term thing, Jack.
Big impact.
I made a big impact. Oh, it did. And it brought me a lot of joy. The problem with that was the water going over my head too often. I could do with, you know, being a bit taller for that. I can't see myself being able to.
So you could move into coaching.
Coaching of it, yeah.
Yeah, because if you know the game, but you don't have the physicality.
I'll be honest, I'm not great at water polo. I'm not going to lie. I was okay playing it, but I couldn't coach. I wouldn't have a clue.
Fair enough.
Football, I'm all right.
I mean, it takes a lot for a coach who doesn't have a clue to stand up and admit it.
Hey, well,
it'd be refreshing if we seen that a little bit more often.
Imagine. But I haven't had 10 years and 400 odd games of water polo, so
no.
There you go. No, it's hugely frustrating at the weekend. Villa, excellent side. We knew that going into it. You sit here and you go, what do we do next? But I've seen a lot of things. I think I've just seen one here as well, saying Calvert-Lewin should have won us the game. Aston Villa should have scored 7 or 8 goals. So people hiding behind the fact that we could have had 3 is a bit of a weird one. Yeah, it might have gone 3-1. That might have been enough. We don't know. I actually think he was offside. I think VAR would have looked at it, he'd have been off because he was ahead of the play. But he should have buried it. He should have at least got a shot away. Could have rolled it square to Njai. We can look at it closer on the final word, but I don't hide behind that because I've just looked at the stats again. Villa had 8 on target to Everton's 2. They missed some sitters that could have put the game. We shouldn't have even been in it. But the biggest thing that I took, right? The biggest thing that I took from it was how much of the ball we give up to a team that doesn't really do that to anyone else. Do you know what I mean? That was the bit that I found mad. Forget that the defeat is the defeat and the defence is the defence, but to have so little of the ball was crazy.
Yeah, very little structure in that midfield, and that got worse, by the way, when substitutions came on. And I understand you're chasing the game, so you might lose a little bit of shape. But, you know, I don't want to bury the kid after he's only played half an hour, but I weren't impressed with Mangala when he came on. No. I thought he struggled getting into the game, and the right-hand side gave us very little as well. It was... you set yourself up for defeat when you give the ball away so willingly, don't you? And I think the defensive structure plays a part in how little we keep hold of the ball as well, because if you look at Branthwaite's game, he is more capable of stepping out at times as well. Even if that's just to pick up a loose ball, he's straight out there and he gets his foot on it and then we move it on straight away. And that's a very little thing and that's a very basic thing. But neither Tarkowski or Michael Keane have that in their game. So I think we lose that immediately, and that's such a small thing. But if such a small cog in our framework can be removed, and then we're suddenly so poor on the ball. Isn't that worrying? Doesn't that show like much deeper issues in terms of this team, in terms of our midfield structure?
I think it's the way we play. I think someone sent me something yesterday, someone who works for Opta, and said, find this startling that Everton were willing to sell Branthwaite for the right price. And this, it wasn't having a go at Everton, by the way, for this thing, but for a manager who can't cope without Jared Branthwaite. And this is not an Evertonian, this is an Opta doing the stuff. It was just like, it's incredible. He was saying to me, I'm not saying I subscribe to it, but he was saying it's incredible he's still got a job when you remove one factor and he doesn't know how to deal with it. And he quoted the core at me, and he's quoting Branthwaite saying he's looked at the stuff and the goals to games ratio and this, that and the other. They're just pure facts. I was just like, well, it is what it is. We are where we are. But everyone, and probably me included, think, oh, Branthwaite's going to come back into this and the defence is going to be sound. The lad hasn't played for a while, so it might take him 3 or 4 Premier League games to get back up to speed. Are we, you know what I mean? It's like, that's the worry, when he come in last season, he was fit and ready to go. And we conceded 4 at Villa. The week before Fulham, we'd let 1 in. And Branthwaite come in against Wolves, and we still got beat. We got beat 1-0. But after that, when we went to Sheffield United, and we let 2 in. But then he started getting into it, and we started getting into it. And I just seen someone say, is this a worse start than last year? It is, yeah. We didn't lose the first 4 Premier League games last season like we have.
We drew at Sheffield, didn't we? So, yeah.
But the thing about it is, if we're just expecting it to correct itself once Jared Branthwaite comes in, do you not find that a little bit of a scary thing? Because it might get much better when he's in. But say it doesn't straight away, Jack, we're going to be in.
Well, it's worrying now, and it's worrying long term as well, because look, every manager would struggle without their best player. That's part of football, obviously, but to this level. And I'm not being funny, in terms of influential players in your team that change the way you play. For most teams, that it's a midfielder, or it's a winger, or it's a forward. It's someone who's involved in the game in all facets of the game. They're involved all over the pitch, and they have those key moments going forwards which change the game. For us, with it being a centre half, if we've got a manager who's known for his defensive football and his defensively solid football, and we did have a decent defensive record last season with Branthwaite in the team, so he is capable of doing that with the right players. But part of that ethos, or at least my understanding of it, is you need to be defensively solid, even if you don't have the best quality at the back. That's why you do it. Yeah. That's why you commit less men forward, so you have the numbers advantage rather than the quality advantage.
He never had as good a defender. He's never had as good a defender in his whole life, Sean Dyche, as what Jared Branthwaite is. And yet Burnley at times was strong defensively with much worse quality defenders.
Well,
so that
look at the ones he had. Saying. 2 of them started for us at the weekend, and they were both poor again. Yeah. One of them was largely our fault for the goal. No, I mean, he might be carrying an injury as well, which it is what it is. But in that case, use the defender you bought in the summer. You brought in and you've not given him a minute of football. I genuinely don't care how good he is, because I know people point to the fact he's not been an Islands team, and that, you know what, maybe he isn't great. Maybe there is a lot of work to do.
I thought he'd done all right when he come on Saturday.
No, so did I. But even
he put him to right back. That was one of the biggest problems.
But Baz, regardless of how good he is, we've bought him. Yeah. We bought him, and I know we didn't pay much up front, but we're paying them something. Use him in that case. Branthwaite's not going to be here forever. He's not. Eventually, he's far too good for this level at the current level we're playing at. Those are just the facts. And we were lucky in the summer that the market for his position wasn't booming. There weren't that many big centre-back transfers, especially for left-sided centre-backs. And that could change in the summer. Because some of the better ones out in Europe, like David Alaba at Real Madrid, just for an example, I'm not saying he'll go there, but he's one of the better left-sided centre-halves in Europe who's getting on in age. Other clubs will have similar situations as well, and they might go, oh, we need a left-sided centre-half now. Actually, we didn't need to justify it with the money last year, but now actually we should bring one in who's one of the better ones around, who's young as well. Oh, Jared Branthwaite. That's him gone in the summer.
Knows him, David knows him.
Yeah, but it's worrying. It's worrying that we are so reliant on a player that the idea is we've replaced him already. and we've replaced him with a player the manager doesn't trust because he's fourth choice at the moment behind Michael Keane and a half-fit James Tarkowski. So the manager doesn't rate him and doesn't trust him. Maybe he is that bad, I don't know, because I've not seen him, because the manager won't play him. But what is the thinking there? We're relying on a player who's not going to be here forever, who's currently out injured, and that's going to be the thing that turns our fortunes around, hopefully. A centre-back.
Like someone said there as well, though, Branthwaite was in the team when we went 4 months without a win as well. So, I think Carragher, I know a lot of people don't like Jamie Carragher, whatever, but I thought his commentary was spot on at the weekend. He was on about Everton. Why are they playing like this when they can play better football? Why are they giving the ball up constantly to a team that doesn't really even want it? Why are we... It's aimless the way we play. We were 2-0 up. In fact, it was exactly what I said. I hoped last week, remember I said, I hope we get battered and we can just somehow win the game. We were 2-0 up without doing anything. We'd had 18% possession and we were winning 2-0.
Well, when we scored our 2 goals... At the time, I think they'd been our first 2 successful passes in the opposition half. It flashed up on the telly, or first 2 passes into the box, or something like that. And you compared the Villa numbers, they had around 10 or something. Obviously, hadn't scored, and we'd had 2. So it was to an extent against the run of play, and those are the victories you love to an extent because it's the brilliant.
God, if we'd have won that 2-1, and that was our only 2, you'd go, you know what, we were a bit crap, but we've dug in and we've got a great result.
Well, those type of wins show character, don't they? And we'd shown character again for a period, albeit less of a period than we did against Bournemouth, but it doesn't last. And I don't think it's a case of whenever we lose a game or we have bad moments in the game, it's, oh, these don't care, oh, they don't work hard enough. I don't think it's as basic as that. I think these players do care, but I think the tactical setup's all wrong, and I think the personnel's wrong as well.
It's so strange, isn't it? Because, you see, listen again, say whatever you want about the manager. You can have a go at him or you can defend him to the hilt. And the reality is probably somewhere in the middle. Of some of it's his fault and some of it isn't his fault. But if you're talking about developing as a team and evolving as a team, when people say like no one could make these players better, it's nonsense. Because I spoke to Villa, a couple of mates who were Villa fans, or a couple of lads who were Villa fans. They thought they were dreadful under Gerrard. They were like, we're going down. And I was like, I've got some good players now, and all that. And then Emery comes in, and now they're in the team, and now they're great. They're an attacking side. They're good to watch. And yes, they've added on to, of course, they bought well, of course, and they have changed a bit. But it's the same at Newcastle. Newcastle were absolutely abysmal. They were abysmal. They'd won 1 Premier League game when Eddie Howe came in, and he didn't win another one until January. And yet, yes, they bought, but in that January transfer window, who did they buy? Kieran Trippier, Dan Burn.
And Bruno as well.
So Bruno, really good midfielder, come in, they brought a right back in and a left back, or a big centre back who they pushed to left back. They didn't massively change the team at 9 players. Their fans were saying they were absolutely abysmal. They were going down, it was all over. Even when Howe come in, even with those 3 signings, it was, we're going to have to go some to
But
stay
look
up.
at the players he's had success with as well. Players like Mathew, for example, who was never in the thinking.
Almiron.
Yeah, Almiron, another one. And I know he still had critics at times, but Longstaff had good periods under Howe when he came in.
Rafa had that deal done to us, so
yeah.
They weren't bothered, Newcastle.
But yes, forget about...
Sorry, my point was being, it wasn't just, oh, we'll leave you. What I'm saying is there will be, this team, there is more to give in this team. A different manager with a different approach, yet might get a lot more out of them. Sean Dyche maybe just needs to alter his approach a bit, because for me, just sitting and hoping we keep a clean sheet and hitting it on the break ain't going to cut it, because less and less teams play like that now. More and more teams are brave. Like Leicester, in my opinion, aren't a very good side, but they're having a go, and they went and had a go at Palace, and okay, Palace get a penalty to, they threw a 2-goal lead away Leicester, but they got a penalty near the end to get a draw. Look at Ipswich. They went down to Brighton. Brighton that were were all over them, should have won the game, but Ipswich have dug in and got a 0-0. Got a point out of a game they shouldn't have got a point out of. These teams are having a go though. And yet us, we just seem terrified of everyone. And yet, ironically, a couple of times we played a bit of football in the second half. We could have got another goal. Dom should have Like I said, I thought he was offside, and it would have been interesting. I'm glad it never went in the net, because if they'd gone the net and he'd have reeled it off, I'd have done me head in. But that was a moment to go 3-1. The other bit of great football he hits the crossbar with, for me, that's unlucky. I know people have had a go. I thought he's unlucky. He's hit it well. He's beat the keeper. It's hit the underside of the bar. It could have gone in, whatever. That was a good bit of football. Carragher was saying, why aren't they playing more of that style? Because they're cutting through. But then we don't. We revert back to just banging it. Dom looks so much better when he's involved in the play, rather than just having to go up and win headers. You know what I mean? Dwight McNeil, I've been saying for a while, his only position that lad can play for us is off Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He can't play wide because he's not quick enough. Yes, left back or left wing back, you could try him at. He's not a left winger. He hasn't got the dynamism for that. But in that whole position where he can get shots away and he can thread a little through ball, for now, he's the best option in that 10. But we didn't use him enough either. It's those moments where we're going to have to, for me, change. Because if we carry on doing what we're doing, the results are going to be very similar. We're going to keep losing games for football.
Well, just going back to what you said about teams like Villa, teams like Newcastle, who thought that their team wasn't up to standard, and then a new manager comes in, or even the manager just makes a change and starts getting the more out players. What people might say to that is, oh well, they still had better players than us, and those players were capable of more. Let's look at our team for a second, and let's go. Well, Tarkowski has played better football before than he's currently playing. We've seen him do it for us, and he's done it for Burnley.
He's the best English centre-back last season.
Michael Keane, Michael Keane, for all his sins, has played much better than this before. I know different managers he's been up and down for, but he's still capable of more. We've seen Mikalenko play better than he's played in the opening few games for us, because I don't think he's been great, albeit you can't really blame him for the weekends, because he came off, obviously. Jack Harrison has certainly played better football before. When he was at Leeds, he was involved, he was scoring goals, playing off the left. Dwight McNeil has played better before than he has at times for Everton. Dom, we know, is capable of playing well under the right circumstances. So all these players are capable of a bit more. We've seen it.
Yeah, I just think there's got to be a change in the way the manager's got to approach it differently. We can't be a team that just hopes the opposition don't score, because if they do score, your plan's out the window. Like the minute Watkins, and it was bad defending, no doubt about it. Luca Dean's on his own, which is crazy. The goalkeeper's got to do better. Go and clean out Watkins and Keane instead of just flapping at it. But Michael Keane's ducking. He's 6'3.5" or something, the lad. If he stands up, he heads it away.
Yeah, he's bullied.
Just terrible defending. And it's in the net. But from that moment, I knew what was coming. And only that Rodgers miscontrol one when Keane didn't realise he was there. It'd have been 2-2 about 2 minutes later. One ball just split everyone he was in with the goalkeeper. If there's a better first touch, he just taps it in for 2-2. And then that 2-goal cushion would have gone in 2 minutes. Watkins already side foots one wide. McGinn misses a sitter. Everything was there. It wasn't like we were tight and we just got undone by a worldie. They missed loads of chances.
No, and that's the other thing as well. I'd just like to touch on, if you don't mind, because the idea that we lost it because of a worldie from Duran, which, factually we did, because that was the winner and it was a brilliant goal and there's not really much you can do about it. I take all that, but it was coming anyway. They were making chances.
They missed.
And that goal wasn't at 0-0. We'd already blew a 2-0 lead, so we never should have been in a situation for that goal to happen in the first place, for that goal to be the winner, if it did happen. That goal should have happened at 2-0 down for Villa if we'd defended properly and we'd had a hold of the game. Yeah. So that's why I don't accept any of that, if that's anyone's mentality. And you know what? Even if that was the goal to make it 3-2, I think in different circumstances, in better form, maybe you might go, you know what? We've lost to a worldie. There's nothing you can do about that. Fair enough. But this comes after last week. This comes after this entire season. And it comes after the last 9 months of not really winning all that many games of football. This manager doesn't have enough credit in the bank for that, unfortunately.
It was a great goal, but again, no one's closing people down. And like you say, Pickford's already had to make a brilliant save from Rodgers. There's a block, I think, from James Garner on the follow-up. Otherwise, that's in. Duran's doing bicycle kicks in our box, putting it over. Watkins is missing 2 sitters, all after they, you know what I mean? All at 2-2, basically. Watkins' ones. It was coming. It was just that it came from an absolute screamer. And then they could have put the game to bed a couple of times at 3-2 and missed opportunities. So they've had 8 shots on target and scored 3 goals to Everton's 2. So better finishing kills the game anyway. But we've just got it. For me, we can't keep giving the ball up and going, we're not good enough to have the ball. Like I said, I've said it a million times. I'm not talking Pep Guardiola. I'm not talking Roberto Martinez or Mikel Arteta type football, because we haven't got the players to do what they do, even Brighton. But we've got players who can mix it a little bit. I watched the first half an hour or so of Man City Brentford on Saturday. Brentford were unbelievable. Should have been 3-0 up. They were brilliant. They just went at it. They were nice and brave. They were on the front foot. And okay, ultimately, City beat them because Haaland's a machine. You know, and the second goal was really naive by Brentford going man for man with him, and he done what he done to Branthwaite last year and just bullied the kid and clipped it over. But they still were brave and they went at it, and they will get a lot more points this season from playing like that. Where I think the manager's putting himself under pressure and the team under pressure by sort of sitting on the edge of the box and going, we're going to be difficult to break down, because you're just giving the ball back to them all the time. So you're relying on your goalie being amazing, your centre-backs making sure they never ever drop their concentration for a second. People have got to get blocks in. It's so difficult to achieve that, I think.
Some great teams over the years have had really big success over focusing on the defensive side of things. You look at, some of the Mourinho teams over the years, the basis of what they done was defensively. But they were still very capable on the ball. They still didn't make stupid mistakes on the ball. They were still focused. They were still switched on. They had the threat and they had the talent. People often talk about, if you say, I want this team to be able to play a little bit more. And, I'm not talking Guardiola's Man City, but just, be able to move it a bit in the way an Ipswich might do or Brentford might do, because they play better football than us and they benefit from it. People go, oh, well, you need the talent. You need the player talent in there. Even if you did, playing defensive football where you have success and you're not giving up shots takes talent as well, but you need all that best defensive talent. Those Mourinho teams, his Chelsea teams that, were keeping clean sheets and were coming under a lot of pressure and didn't always have the ball. They weren't conceding loads of shots on goal because they had brilliant talent in defence. They had brilliant centre-backs like John Terry and Carvalho. Brilliant midfield who, once they did get the ball, they didn't lose it. So actually, that takes talent as well. It arguably takes a bit more talent if you want to do it successfully and you want to do it well, rather than just coasting by, I hope they don't get a really good shot off. That maybe takes a bit more talent than just trying to get them to play a little bit better football.
Yeah. I feel like, me personally, my philosophy is attack is better. It's the best form of defence, putting the opposition under the pressure. I think sitting back and hoping you don't concede is a massively risky game to play. Ped?
I just think we're just really unbalanced, aren't we? I mean, you can see that at the weekend. We're really unbalanced. I think we need to play. I think we needed to play 3 in midfield on Saturday. I think we needed to play possibly James Garner in there and Tim Irabunum away from home just isn't quite there yet. So he doesn't track the runners. He doesn't block the passing lanes, and I think people get in behind them really easy. And I think that we have to play 3 in there. Now, what that means for Dwight McNeil's role in the team, I'm not quite sure. I can understand people looking at it and going, well, he scored from that position, but I think the protection of the back 4 is more important. Jack Harrison isn't really offering anything on that right-hand side away from home. He does maybe at home, but I don't think away from home he's offered anything in the 2 games. I think McNeil, maybe from the right, or just him and Dye, maybe swap him round, but I think we need 3 in there because I just don't think there's any protection at the moment. We just don't seem to be able to get a balance. Whether people like Decore or not, I think when he plays in that role, he does offer something a little bit more defensive than what McNeil has been doing. And that there just isn't a right balance. You could have McNeil in the team, but you'd need better legs behind him, and I don't think that's there as well. So you've got to find the balance, and I just don't think that's there. I think, as I said, I think Garner might have been it might have been better maybe when Mangala could play 3 in there away from home. But it's just all over the pitch. It just feels like it's just not quite there. Having a right back who has to move to left back is just crazy.
That's not good, is it?
That's crazy. People don't look fit. I just wonder how you get to 4 games into now 5 games into the season and have multiple players who don't look fit when the pre-season is all about fitness and very, very little work's been done technically. And I also think that he stumbles across things rather than having a purpose, wanting to do that. I think the Ndai thing's been a bit. I think he stumbled across that, playing him on the left rather than wanting to play on the left. He stumbled on Timmy Abunam. Doesn't feel planned, very much is planned out. Like he's got an idea and it's just like happy accidents happen, very much in the Bob Ross style. How can you legislate for playing Michael Keane every single game? It will be the thing for all of us. Anyone could have an argument with us all day about the positive side of what Dyche is doing, and we'll just go, Michael Keane. We win the argument every single time. Michael Keane. Whether you like him or you don't like him, you've got to appreciate that he's like a grey cloud, literally just follows him round like a cartoon character. We ship goals when he's in the team. He's not, as I've said before, he's not like this lad who makes major mistakes, but I think he makes major technical mistakes. I think he makes mistakes that aren't glaringly obvious to us, as in like, oh, he's done this or he's done that. But I do think he makes big mistakes from a level point of view. I think he makes big mistakes. People get behind him far too easy. He's flat-footed. He doesn't jump well. And sadly, you know, as you've just mentioned there, I've seen loads of people in the comments on Saturday night, and it's like, it'll be all right once Branthwaite's back. You can't live with that. That can't be the recipe. What if Branthwaite gets injured again? What if Branthwaite gets suspended? What if Branthwaite doesn't come back the same player because he's had an injury and it takes him a few weeks to get up to speed?
It'll take him a few weeks.
You can't rely on that. You can't rely on that. We know Michael Keane just isn't good enough for this team and is probably not good enough for the Premier League as it stands at this age. You might have been better playing Jake O'Brien and going, might take you a couple of games, but you'll get up to speed because of those couple of games.
But that in itself would buy the manager some credit.
It will buy him credit. We said that from the start.
Yeah,
but the other point of this, though, is I think this is the more damning fact with Sean Dyche is Sean Dyche has been here before with Michael Keane. He has been here and he's took him out the firing line twice. He got rid of him at the end of the first season when it came to the crunch time, and he got rid of them in the second season when it came to the crunch time. He knew when it came to those important games. Now, maybe you look at it and go, yeah, but I had Yerry Mina and Connor Cody at those times. They were trusted, experienced players I could bring into the side.
It wasn't though last season, was it?
No, I know. I mean, for just the later stages.
I know. I'm just saying.
He got, in many ways, I think he touched lucky with Branthwaite. I don't think he knew what he had, and suddenly he had to put him in. And again, the fan pressure situation again led him to that situation. But it's just astonishing to me that he keeps on playing Michael Keane. The other things we could argue about all day, in terms of player positions and stuff, but playing Michael Keane is just crazy. It's absolutely crazy to me.
Barkley had more passes than the whole of Everton's midfield combined on Saturday, and he only came.
He come off the bench, yeah.
Half time.
Christ. John Blaine's just sent me some stats actually for our record with Branthwaite versus without him under Sean Dyche. This is just in the Premier League. So with Branthwaite in the team under Dyche, we played 35, won 12, which is a win percentage of 34.3, and conceded 46 goals. So that's an average of 1.3 a game. Without him in the team, we've played 24 and won 6 of them, so a win rate of 25. And conceded 44 goals, which is an average of 1.8. It's 2 less in 11 less games. And I would argue, actually, like Ped's just pointed out, that number's probably a bit skewed because Yerry Mina played in a handful of those games as well. So, I don't know what the exact numbers are. If it's exclusively Keane versus Branthwaite, it does not bode well at all. And look, we don't know what those numbers would be with Jake O'Brien in the team, for example. Maybe we would have conceded the exact same amount of goals as we would have done. But we know with Michael Keane, we know it's not going to work. And like, I don't mean to go in on him because I'm sure he's a lovely fella, but he's not good enough. He's really not. And I think back to Phil Jones at Man United. They gave him opportunities and he'd come out the team if he's shown he wasn't good enough, and then he'd have to bring him back in. And it came to the point where they said, look, you're not going to play. Unless there's an absolute disaster and you have to play, you're not going to play. And he sat on the sidelines for 3 years at Man United because they knew it was never going to work. It was never going to work, so they took him out the team and said, there is no scenario in which you play football for this football club again. And he didn't. And unfortunately, that's where we are with Michael Keane. We know it doesn't work.
Right, let's have a look at some comments. Dan says, straight in with the fume. I can't stand the media narrative that Dyche is some miracle worker and the fans don't understand the full picture. While the media ask who his favourite Barclays man, he delivered the worst start in 66 years. Totally unacceptable. There is no other Premier League club that would accept this. Everton shouldn't either. Mike says, has he gone yet? Phil says, I'm unsure why we're saying the first goal was down to Keane. I'm not as big as... Because he doesn't jump, Phil. It's quite easy. It's ridiculous that he doesn't jump. The cross comes in, he leaps him standing. Watkins is running and puts his arm in Keane's back, knocking him forward. Then he smashes in the head. Yeah, totally disagree, mate. It's awful defending. It's weak defending.
And that's your awareness as a centre-back as well, though, isn't it? Yeah. To adjust to the fact you've got someone running in, so you adjust your stance and your position to deal with that.
It's awful defending, and it's poor goalkeeping as well, for me.
Yeah, Pickford deserves stick as well.
Took the pair of them out. And the other one as well, the second goal is on Michael Keane. Jack Harrison stretching.
Yeah, Harrison doesn't cover himself in glory for it.
He's got one job to do as a centre-back, mark the striker. He doesn't have a clue Watkins is there. Yes, Harrison skews it by stretching for something and knocks it, but he's nowhere near Watkins. So, but I'm just saying it. That's just facts. Doesn't matter whether you can go. He's got a stand. The same happened with Lescott was out jumped by Sean Wright-Phillips all those years ago in the League Cup semi-final. Sean Wright-Phillips was a running jump. Lescott stood still. Bad defending. Clear your lines. Tarkovsky wouldn't have been beaten with that either. End of story. Where are we? Conrad's season so far, in one word, depressing. Sog says the perceived wisdom that Keane is worth 2 goals again to the opposition no longer stands up. As of this season, that number is now 3.25 goals per game. I wonder if we're missing a number 6. Bill said the issues with our team and defensive structure go beyond Keane, although he's blatantly shouldn't be starting. We concede an average of 2 goals a game when he does. It goes deeper to our weak mentality. I knew we'd lose as soon as we conceded. Dyche's retreat on a lead, don't engage tactics, our inability to keep the ball, our injury-prone and inconsistent fullbacks in midfield of Garner and Tim does not protect the back 4 when Villa had 4 in there. I'll bring in Garner back to sit, maybe even see what Mangala's got. One thing for sure, Dyche is on thin ice. A defeat next Saturday is the end of him. Yes, the players need to take responsibility, but a manager ultimately sets the structure of the team up. And his selections are baffling, his coaching and tactics are limited, his in-game management is horrific, and his record is now abysmal. A defensive manager who can't make our team hard to beat, I think he is now a dead man walking. Whatever happens. Derek says, I think against the better team, we need to put an extra body in midfield. Just like the Spurs game, we were overrun in midfield. Duckdo says, Villa clearly the better team. But Everton always had it in them to win these games, despite being underdogs. No idea where this went for us this season. My observation is Tim Irabun is much better in games when we look to have possession. He's a bit outclassed against Spurs and Villa. Mangala may be a better fit. I don't think Mangala's up to he's only had 1-2 training sessions, I think, so he was never going to start over Irabuna. Irabuna's been great at home, away, the 2 games. He's only a young player coming into the team.
He's struggling with his positioning a bit, isn't he? I think he just struggles with his understanding in that midfield away from home. But at the end of the day, overall, he's done well for us this year. And he's probably being a little bit overexposed because while, obviously people knew he was a talent, he weren't necessarily brought in with the idea of being our starting midfielder, was he? I think he's overperformed, really, and benefited from circumstance as well by being in that team. Yeah. So, we will just have to be patient with him and understand you probably weren't brought in with the idea of playing this much football.
No, he wasn't. Spruce says Deitch talks about needing to be mentally strong, yet continues to play our most mentally weak player, who's only played well for us when there was no fans in the ground. The man is a hypocrite. Ben says weird situation at the minute is the manager, the fans and the players all know the manager's gone. It's just down to what comes first, the new owner or the continued poor results. Adam says, I feel like I sound like Deitch's biggest fan. He obviously has flaws and does make errors, but for me it's not about him. It seems to be the players who get a free ride in comparison to the stick the manager gets. Name me the last Everton manager we didn't give grief. Even Carlo, one of the greatest managers ever, we still managed to find fault. As much as managers have flaws, we're a fan base that are very difficult to satisfy. People say we're better than we're showing, but we are the only team who look like they have no idea how to see a game out. Yeah, he's won 5 games in 9 months. There's no other fact that I can argue with. There's no point even having a discussion about it. They're the facts. As a manager, you're judged on what you do. End the story. If the manager had been given the same set of players and hadn't changed any of the players and just had to have them players and couldn't do anything, at a point you start going, the manager's got all he can get out of them. He's been given 14 different players in the last 2 seasons.
Well, let me just go back to the obvious point. Again, if it is the players, one of those players who's been one of the biggest underperformers, especially this season, is Michael Keane. Why is he in the team then when we've just bought another centre-half? It's down to the manager, isn't it? Players
are contributing, Adam, 100%. Your points on Pickford, just smashing the ball upfield for when he can calm it down. I absolutely agree. Twice on Saturday, he just smashed the ball up instead of calming down. It's like, what are you doing? Like, we're not even set and you're webbing the ball as hard as you can instead of just taking your little bit of time. And that was, he done one when we were winning 2-1. And then when it was 2-2 in the second half for no reason, it's like, just calm down.
The ones as well, when he runs out, towards the corner flag to try and, I remember we crucified Tim Howard for doing that once at Man United. And look, I am obviously a big fan of Jordan Pickford, but I hate when he does that. It just instills nerves, doesn't it? It gets the opposition fans off the feet, doesn't it? They're like, oh, is he going to mess up here? And obviously the players as well are going to feel nervous because they're all watching the ball at that point going, oh Christ, where's this going to end up? It doesn't help us.
Bill says Branthwaite is big, but look at last season. Our 10 was Decore, who dropped back in, and we had Garner sitting as a 6. Then we have our weaknesses of fullbacks. McNeil is creating, but he does drop in. What's the drop off gonna be going from Keane to O'Brien when we can see 3+ every game anyway?
Well, that's it, isn't it?
That's your point, isn't it? At least if he'd have tried O'Brien. I think Carragher said this at the weekend. He's like, I haven't seen enough of Jake O'Brien, but a defence that's letting so many goals in, you've got to change it. Even if you
go to your next man, don't you?
Well, you look and go, look, we're trying something different. If this is not working, we've got to try something a bit different to see if we can grab a result or if it performs better.
But you do that in any other position as well, with regardless of if you just sign the next player up or not. If your striker had as 4 bad games as Michael Keane's had, you'd look at your next striker on the bench.
Just to give him a go, just to freshen it.
Just to go, look, even if overall as a player you might not be as good, maybe you are inexperienced, we need to take this lad out the firing line because it's not working for him. Yeah, just we're going to try something new today.
Connor says, I've deleted Twitter, lads. Think it'll do me the world of good. Yeah, I just don't go on it, mate. It's the worst in the world. Just do not go near it. It's full of idiots. There's loads of great people on it as well. Loads of great people. But you get drawn into stuff or you see things that just make you depressed. Stay off it. You don't need it. You honestly don't need it, mate. Big world out there. Barry says, although the scoring sequence in the last 2 games has been the same, they were very different types of game. The last 2 performances are improvements over the first 2. Really? Saturday? I never seen it. Bournemouth? Yeah, you could say. But even Bournemouth's been miscast as this unbelievable performance for 87 minutes.
We met the standard for 70 minutes, didn't we?
Well, no, but I watched it again. The first half was very even, the Bournemouth game.
We had the better of it.
We were the better of it, but they were a threat. The second, 45 to 75, Everton bossed it. They were out of sight. And then the drop-off came after the 75th minute where we got tired. Saturday, we were never in the game. We got goals against the run of play. And we almost got back in.
But we're still showing quality in taking those goals.
Because the players are better than what people think. End of story. So it's why aren't they performing? That's the big one. Matt Gibson says the players like us aboard are listening to him now. I've got no evidence of that. Bill says can't afford to give Villa 70% of the ball and not track Tielemans, who was pulling us apart. John says Garner's failure to stay in position and his pathetic attempt to block a cross was worse than any mistakes by Pickford or Keane.
He was poor, Garner, especially for their first goal. How we left Luca Dean in that much space.
Money.
Yeah. But then giving Onana the space to play that pass as well was criminal.
Sarah says, why are we never the team to come back? We go behind and the heads go down. We go ahead and other teams just rise to it. I seriously think we need a sports psychologist to come in. There's no belief in our team that they can recover.
We
They're
can't
supposed to have a sports psychologist, but I don't know if they have. They might have, I don't know. But
is he any good?
I don't know. I don't know, but you'd be trying everything, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you'd be like...
And Everton might be. I don't know if they are or they aren't. It's just you don't hear about it. If we have, put it out there, because they need something, don't they? Brian says she'll play O'Brien, Mitahi and Dixon against Southampton with a view to being the most available options over the next 10 games. Branthwaite will need to be eased back. Yeah, possibly. Brandon says the win rate and clean sheets with Keane playing is 10%, 2 from 19 for both, and without him is 46%, 19 from 41, and 41%. 17 from 41 under Deitch. I think it's less about Jared and more about Keane, to be honest.
No, it's a big part of it, isn't it? It's just because obviously there's a massive difference in quality there, but that's what I was saying with O'Brien. We don't know what those numbers would be like if it was O'Brien instead of Keane, but we know for a fact that those numbers with Keane aren't good, so the natural thing to do is change it. Regardless of
that isn't even saying
is.
It's all Michael Keane. It's just that when he's in that defence, it seems like they can't.
The numbers are objectively bad when he's in the team. That's a fact, isn't it? Regardless of how much you want to put on Keane, that's subjective. You can have your own say on that, but the numbers are objectively bad with him in the team. There's no debate to be had there.
Benzi says I don't really like Carragher, but he was right on Saturday when he said we play like a lower league side away from home. Duck Doo says the first goal was the same one we conceded against Bournemouth several times. Keane aside, Pickford may need to adjust and move back quicker to cover those far posts, especially if he thinks the centre-backs and full-backs can't handle it. Teams are gonna target that, yeah. Paul Power, what a player, says, honestly, lads, at 2-0, I never felt confident we could hold the lead. We've gone from a solid defence last season and not scoring goals to this season having an awful defence. But are now scoring goals. We need to find a balance pretty quickly. We absolutely do need to find a balance, mate. ASAP. Because it just can't. It can't carry on, can it? It just doesn't help. Just seeing here. Ben says doesn't help Tim that the manager just tells him to go out there and run around. And Ned Schliebly says, I feel like the hierarchy are waiting for the takeover to go through so they don't have to make a decision. If the takeover's close enough, surely both parties can come to an agreement that this imposter is done for. Every post-match interview is just Deitch telling the press how unfortunate we are with injuries, transfers, decisions and so on. I'm fed up of his excuses. All I want is what he's paid for, which is results.
Depends on how highly the current hierarchy rate the manager, though, doesn't it? Which, we don't have an insight into that, but I don't think it'd shock anyone if they didn't think of him as negatively as the rest of us do.
Bob the Evertonian said Carragher also said we're too afraid and uncomfortable to try and get on the ball and cause a problem, which I think is hard to disagree with.
Because we look intimidated, don't we? We look scared of what might happen. They look scared of failure, and they look scared of the opposition. The lower league team comment was spot on, because we look like we know that we're playing a level above us, which shouldn't be the case, but at times we've had that mentality against teams that on paper we're quite similar to, in games where we've been playing well, in the last 2 games where we've been winning, so we've shown we can do it, so there's no need for that mentality.
Tony Dunn says, Baz, just looking at the shirts you've got on display reminds me that each of them players had character and a fierce will to win. Yeah. Everton Abbey says I'm deleting my Facebook. It's not where it happened. Yeah. We hear Corin, who's a YouTube member, says I think a better manager gets more out of this team. Ian Murphy, another YouTube member, says O'Brien and Branthwaite should start, but we know this won't happen. Do you think Tarkowski's carrying something?
He looks like it.
He hasn't started the season great, and we know he was injured.
He had a knock in the summer, didn't he? And he looked a bit sluggish, but it's difficult because I just think him and Keane, and I know I keep going back to the Keane, but I just think even take performance out of it, stylistically, they don't complement each other either. I think they're too similar. And I think in modern football, you need at least one who's capable of stepping out a little bit more or capable of getting on the ball a little bit more. They're both right-footed, which I know Premier League footballers should be capable with both feet, but I think there's a reason why all the top teams, or just the majority of teams these days, really go for a righty and a lefty. So I just think, I do think he's carrying something because he has looked sluggish, but I think he still would have looked better with Branthwaite next to him.
Joe, who's a YouTube member, says Keane hasn't been good enough for us for 3 seasons. When Dyche first got the job, he put Keane in, conceded goals, so he bit the bullet and put Cody and Mina in, but he's still not learning. Emma says Dyche is solely responsible for the flack Keane gets. He doesn't pick himself. Blue 96 says, what info has Keane got on Dyche? Gary says he's a terrible manager, should be nowhere near the dugout time and again. If you never change anything, how do you expect a different outcome? Oh, that's disappeared. It's just frustrating, isn't it? It's absolutely frustrating. Nick Tube, who's a Villa fan, says, good show, as always. The tactics killed you in that game. If they change, then mid-table easy. I did notice that Tarkowski was feeling his lower back a lot, like he was in pain from where I was sitting. Yeah, he did injure his back in pre-season, and I just don't think he looks... He's normally very commanding, Tarkowski, and he's not, like, terrible, but you can see he's just not sharp. And if he's... And that's the thing, isn't it? If he's injured, then take him out and let him recover properly.
Yeah, I mean, he might just need that bit of time out the team, so he's not putting stress on his body. And again, it just goes back to take the punt. And then it would be Michael Keane in the team. So it'd be O'Brien and Keane in the short term. But I think in that case, if he said, look, he's injured and he might be able to play, but he'll be nowhere near his best, and actually it'll be delaying his recovery, I think everyone would go, yeah, fair enough. And he might have been back in the team by now.
It's not the manager's fault if players, if some of them are injured. He can't do nothing about that. But asking people to do jobs and they're not at the best, leaving a lad in who, for whatever reason, isn't performing, or the defence just isn't as solid at the moment, then all you're doing is making it more detrimental to him and the team. We're conceding goals every time we play. So therefore, 3 against Brighton, 4 against Tottenham, 3 against Bournemouth, 3 against that cannot continue. It just can't continue. But you keep picking the same thing. It was like Saturday. People were asking me on Thursday who would play right back. It's like Ashley Young. Of course it'll be Ashley Young. He's not gonna go wackily James Garner And he only done that because he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
When Michaelenko went. He was never going to put Roman Dixon in, even though Roman Dixon played at bloody Spurs. That was him, one and done. So it was always Ashley Young. But I've been saying, when people have been going on about the right-back position, what have I been saying? We need a left-back. And then, our 40-year-old right-back ends up becoming the left-back. And then we have to put a midfielder who he didn't want to play at right-back to right. You know what I mean? It's like, those kind of things don't make sense. That's not, and that again, that might not be on the manager because the club haven't given him a left back. But that's where we are right now. But he's not helping himself by repeatedly playing Michael Keane. If there's an issue or if Tarkowski is injured, why are you playing him? You bought a centre back, play him. The only way you learn is by playing. It's the only way you learn. The lad has been playing in France and done well. He's an international. Okay, now doesn't matter if he's starting for Ireland. He's an international. He's in their squad. But he's played football. The only way you know whether he's going to sink or swim is to give him 10, 15, 20 games.
And we're going to be limited in opportunities to actually give him football. Once Branthwaite comes back, statistically, centre-backs get injured less than other players on the pitch, don't they? Because they're not covering as much ground. We could see Branthwaite and Tarkowski played every single game for the rest of the season together. Once Branthwaite's back, it's not out of the realm of possibility. They'll certainly play a lot together. So when is going to be the opportunity to bring O'Brien in? And if he is Branthwaite's replacement for next summer, when is he going to get that opportunity?
He'll play tomorrow night against Southampton because the manager, I imagine, will just be thinking, but at home, he played the last one, he'll be okay. But then if Branthwaite was fit for Saturday, O'Brien will be straight. No matter what he does tomorrow night, Branthwaite will be back in.
But even that, Baz, that's 2 games out of a potential 6 you could have played him in, one of which was against the League 2 team.
Marco says Sean is a Sunday League coach. He has his favourite and nothing will change his stubborn mind. Corin, who's a YouTube member rather, says the defence doesn't work. Bought a centre back and doesn't play him. Still plays Keane. I just don't understand it. And Everton Abbey, who's a YouTube member, says Torquay United lost on Saturday, 35%, 8 shots, but they lost. Oh, but that's it, isn't it? Kev Markley come on and had more passes on his own than the whole of our midfield. Richard D'Souza goes perspective. The season's a marathon with 2 points off 15 position. Okay. I'm not going to give an answer to it.
Lost our opening 4 games.
5 wins in 9 months. That's perspective.
Conceded 13 goals.
But that's perspective, isn't it? If Everton had hardly lost last season and we lost the first 4 games this season, I'd be with you. I'd be going. It's been a terrible start, but things up. We've won 5 games in 9 months. That's perspective. 9 months, 10 months a season is. That's perspective.
But you know what, though? We will win games.
We will.
And I do think we'll stay up. I do think we do. Even if this manager doesn't get sacked, I do think we'll stay up. But it's going to be massively reliant and down to the performance of one centre-half. That is worrying. We're gonna have to do the same thing again, though. I love to leave it for 8 to 10 games. Well, if we've won 1 in 10 games, we're relegated. Because you're asking a new manager to come in and win a crazy amount of games with hardly any of the season to go. So it simply can't be that. It can't be that. Well, if we're left with 28 games, you're looking for him to win at least 12 out of those 28. Almost 50%. Yeah, which is the win ratio you'd get from someone like a Unai Emery. That's probably quite similar to his win record at Villa, isn't it? So, and we're not getting a manager of that quality, unfortunately. We have to start winning games. It's as simple as that. Not study it, go and sack him today. What I was saying is, we can't this isn't like a knee-jerk thing, because we've won 5 games of football in 9 months, so there's no knee-jerk there. What it is we have to start winning games of football very quickly. But we can't just keep going. See what it's like in a few... If the manager had been here since January, absolutely, you've got to give him time. He's been here for 20 months. He's been here a long time. Now, he's the 6th longest serving manager in the Premier League. Right? But no matter what, and he would say it himself, he needs some results. They've got to get results. We can't keep going
We won't win for the first 6 or 7 games, and then we'll put a great run together to get out of it. You can't do that because one day that plan doesn't work. You don't catch up and you're gone. So we can't be like that.
Well, you know what, right? You know, everyone's been talking about Barclays men. For example, everyone was talking the other day actually about Wigan under Martinez, and at the end of every year, they go on a good run of games and they'd win something like 7 out of the last 10, and that'd keep them up every year.
Every year, yeah.
That's effectively, I understand our circumstances were different, but we got a massive portion of our points at the back end of last season. You can't rely on doing that every year. You just can't, because all it takes is a tough run of fixtures at the back end or one key injury at the back end, and you don't get that run of games. You can't rely on that forever. Wigan did, and they went down.
It's tough. It's tough. We just need to win games of football. The manager's got to help the squad by changing it and getting a structure where we don't just say when we can't have the ball. That's what he's got to do, and the players have got to grab that and run with it. Like last one from a YouTube member, Corin says, we need a positive manager. This doesn't work. When will they change it? Or is Mashiri still on his boat because he doesn't care? I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? We've just got to start winning games. That's as simple as that. We're going to do more than a game live in about 5 minutes. So if you want footy chat, different, we'll be looking back at all the games over the weekend. Come over there and see us over there. And obviously the final word will be out later when we'll be going through Aston Villa 3, Everton 2. Thanks for watching. See you all later.